had a whole thing planned all week. And then yesterday morning, I stumbled totally randomly on a TED Talk on YouTube. I was watching something else for a relevant reason. And then on the side column, I just saw this random TED Talk and I watched it and I was so deeply moved and inspired that I just had to talk about it. So I spent the whole day preparing this talk around the video. And then, of course, I watched it again this morning and I was like, yeah, it's okay. Totally lost the inspiration. And, that's an important aspect of our practice in and of itself, right? On whatever spiritual path we're on, a lot of us have these big experiences or this grand awakening or some kind of deep connection or realization. And then really the best thing to do is just to let it go. Um, next time we hear that phrase or next time we see that teacher or next time we try to, manufacture that experience, it's not the same, right? Because the experience is in every moment, totally fresh. So that was kind of a good reminder for me. But hopefully I can try to tap into the weeping inspiration that I got from the first watch of this video. So the TED Talk is given by this guy named Sam Burns. Show of hands, anyone know who I'm talking about? Sam Burns, good, awesome. Sam Burns was a 17-year-old kid when he gave this TED Talk. And he was born with a condition called progeria. And for those of you who don't know progeria, it's like extremely rare. Like I think something like 300 people in the world have it. In the world, 300 people. It's incredibly devastating physical genetic mutation kind of thing. And so this kid faced incredible challenges and obstacles in his life, and yet has just been or had been this beacon of joy and finding happiness and appreciation in his life and spreading that joy and harmony to others. And so just watching him talk, it's like a 12-minute talk, and just watching him talk about his experience and his relationship with suffering and challenge and obstacles was just so moving to me. And, it's a little unconventional. This guy is not Buddhist. He doesn't seem to have any kind of spiritual bent at all. But I just was thinking to myself, insofar as Buddhism or any kind of spiritual practice is aimed at suffering, penetrating the suffering of myself and others, this guy, is a bodhisattva 100%, regardless of his, affiliation or experience with any kind of formal practice. So it was just such a clear example of secular, unaffiliated bodhisattvahood that I just, I couldn't deny the wisdom in his talk. So I guess I'll just start by, I wanted to play a couple minutes just towards the end of this video. I will give a little warning that, this disease does have some pretty severe effects on physical appearance. There are some possibly extreme deformities. So if you're someone who's really easily disturbed or really sensitive to something like that, totally fine to just kind of close your eyes and just listen. You can turn the computer away. But I will say, after watching him for a few minutes, it just kind of fades away. He just kind of looks like another dude talking. But at first it is a little shocking. So I really want to make sure if anyone is sensitive to disturbing things, that you really don't have to watch. He's so eloquent and the words really speak for themselves. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this. I'll let you know when I start so you can turn away if you wish. All right, I'm going to start the video now. Can everybody see? Thumbs up, yes? Oh, and I should probably, sorry, I got to share my sound too. Sorry. All right, a little bit of Sam Burns TED Talk.
I know more about it genetically So it's less of an embodiment now. It used to be like this thing that prevents me from doing all this stuff that causes other kids to die, that causes everybody to be stressed, and now it's, a protein that is abnormal that weakens the structure of cells. So, and it takes a burden off of me because now I don't have to think about progeria as an entity. Okay, pretty good, huh? Yep. Thank you. So, as you can see, I've been thinking this way for many years, but I'd never really had to apply all of these aspects of my philosophy to the test at one time until last January. I was pretty sick. I had a chest cold and I was in the hospital for a few days. I was secluded from all of the aspects of my life that I felt made me me. That kind of gave me my identity. But knowing that I was going to get better and looking forward to a time that I would feel good again helped me to keep moving forward. And sometimes I had to be brave, and it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I faltered, I had bad days, but I realized that being brave isn't supposed to be easy. And for me, I feel it's the key way to keep moving forward. So, all in all, I don't waste energy feeling bad for myself. I surround myself with people that I want to be with, and I keep moving forward. So, with this philosophy, I hope that all of you, regardless of your obstacles, can have a very happy life as well. Oh, wait, hang on a sec. One more piece of advice. Never miss a party if you can help it. My school's homecoming dance is tomorrow night, and I will be there. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. So there are three things that I wanted to address primarily about this talk that he gave. Um, the first thing is so that first clip that he was showing was a documentary that HBO made on him and his life. So his parents are pediatricians, and they, together with a group of scientists, started a organization to really study and do some research around progeria to try to understand it. So that's what he was kind of talking about in the clip of the documentary, was that in that study, in their work trying to get to know it, he said, by knowing these things, by learning about it, I don't have to see progeria as an entity. And that just spoke so loudly to me. And it really reminds me of the Buddha's second noble truth, right? We know that Buddhism, the basic first primary teaching is the Four Noble Truths, right? So the first noble truth is that there is suffering, life is suffering. And then the second noble truth is that there's a cause. There's a reason for this suffering, right? Our karma, our desires, our attachments, our concepts and ideas. And that is kind of what I think Sam is saying there, right? Before they were able to study it and get to know progeria, it was this entity, this kind of a formous, just mysterious entity that was, controlling his life. Nothing to do about it. I don't know how it works. It's just this scary monster. And, that applies so much to our life in all kinds of ways. How many things do we just treat as an entity? My depression, my failure, racism, um, political gridlock, all these challenges that we face, if we just kind of give in to it as this entity, then it can run our lives, and we kind of stay in the samsaric, karmic cycle. But when we can become intimate with it, just like his parents and the scientists became intimate with progeria, just like we do when we do zazen, become intimate with our suffering, become intimate with ourselves. Then these entities that kind of plague our life, they kind of start to slowly unravel, right? And it's like he said in the documentary, once we learned about it, it's not this scary entity, it's just malformed proteins. It's just a bad protein that's causing the destruction of cells. And once we know that, then we really know how to kind of approach and face our troubles. Then we can start making treatments or medicines, metaphorically speaking. Um, so I just wanted to say there's three things I wanted to talk about what we just watched, and each thing I want to kind of talk about a Buddhist literature or Buddhist teachings that apply. And also, since it is Black History Month, we haven't really mentioned that much. I'm just going to throw in a little bit, pepper it here and there with my experience with anti-racism work and just race in general coming up, just so we can kind of start that conversation in our own heads. So yeah, this de-entification of our suffering is so crucial to our practice. Really getting that second noble truth, becoming intimate, seeing what is my karma, what is the cause and effect that's causing me suffering, as opposed to just, giving into this entity of depression that's just, always with me and I can't get over it. And mortality, this entity I can't know, really investigate, really become intimate with it. And I think the same goes for racism. I think, whether it's racism in general, whether it's white people, whether it's Black people, the more we just kind of relegate it to this entity, this monster that has to be destroyed, we're just going to keep flailing and yelling at each other. But if we can meet in unity and harmony and learn it and be intimate with it and ask questions and study and research and investigate, really get to know it and be intimate with it, that's how we can start to kind of slowly but surely find treatments and possibly medicines and cures. So that's the first thing that he talked about. The second thing is how he talked about being brave, right? He was saying that when he was in the hospital, um, he found that he needed to call up a lot of bravery in order to get out. And he said it wasn't easy. He says that bravery isn't supposed to be easy. And I think this is pretty true for our practice in Zen, whatever spiritual practice we're on. I know sometimes we come to the Zen Center, oftentimes it's really nice and meditation feels good. And we love our Sangha and we have tea and cookies and we hear things that make us feel good and we connect with people and that's wonderful. But if we really take our practice deeper and we want to really see what the Buddha saw or really connect with Christ or really understand Kabbalah or the Torah, whatever your spiritual practice may be, it's hard and it's scary and it's work. Um, and it really takes bravery. For those of us who are, on a serious Zen path, we do a lot of Dokusan, right? Dokusan is when you have one-to-one interview with the teacher. And again, sometimes it's nice. Sometimes you just kind of share in intimacy and have a really nice connection. But oftentimes it's scary. Oftentimes you're going to be told no. You're going to be pointed out. The teacher, a good teacher, will find a way to point out places you're stuck. And it sucks. It's hard. There's a lot of times where in my practice, I really don't want to go to Dokusan. I just want to sit. But I know how important that meeting of minds is, whether it's with a Zen teacher or with a friend or whoever it's with. It's hard. And you got to be brave to really take that step and remember the commitment to depth in our practice. So really calling up that bravery if something feels scary. Sometimes you want to listen to it and stay away, but other times, especially when there's trust within a community or with a teacher in a relationship, it's good to kind of call on that bravery. Um, as far as Buddhist texts, I found a koan that I think speaks to bravery. It's in the Mumonkan, or the Gateless Gate. This is the first full collection that we do in the koan curriculum. So this koan says, Kyogen said, "It is as though you were up in a tree, hanging from a branch with your teeth. Your hands and feet can't touch any branch. Someone appears beneath the tree and asks, 'What is the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West?' If you don't answer, you evade your responsibility. If you do answer, you fall to the ground and lose your life. What do you do?" So the magic in working with these koans is obviously working on them for yourself, and hopefully with a Zen teacher. Um, that's really where the magic kind of comes. But I think for the purposes of this talk, I think that this is kind of talking about bravery and this hanging from a branch by our teeth. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. We encounter that all the time. We can even say that every single moment of our life, we're hanging from this branch by our teeth. And so this koan is, really aimed at um, looking at how I cling to things, how I, hold on by the skin of my teeth to, things I want to stay the same, who I think I am, my identity, not wanting to go into the unknown, not wanting to take risks. All these ways that we hold on so tightly to what we think is precious. Um, and so, for me, this koan just constantly asks, like, how am I evading responsibility? How am I not being brave? Um, when is it time to just let go? Right? This guy down at the bottom asking, why did Bodhidharma come from the West? That's kind of Zen lingo, but it's basically saying, what is your life? What is the meaning of life? What is enlightenment? How do I awaken? What is unconditional love? What is God? It's all kind of the same question. And for those of us on a spiritual path, we have to step in there. We have to answer. Um, and so I think that kind of points to the bravery of our practice and the bravery that we should have in our life, to not be afraid to let go and investigate and explore and lose our life. What does that mean? And then I think this dovetails with race stuff really easily. I mean, how many times, for all of us, but especially as a white person, I can definitely talk to, how many times have you been in a situation where there's race stuff coming up, and if you don't say anything, you're just kind of a complicit white person, and if you do say something, there's this risk of saying something wrong. I know that very well, and it's torturous, because you want to show that you're interested, that you care, that you want to change, that you want the systems to change. But it's also terrifying because you might be yelled at. You might be told you're wrong. You might, quote unquote, lose your life. And I just, in my anti-racial work, anti-racism work, and a lot of the things I read and watch and listen to and talk about, people talk about racial bravery, literally word for word. Racial bravery, I think, is a phrase. I think that's what they call it. And so to really not be afraid to say something wrong, to not be not be about self-preservation when it comes to talking about race. I might look bad. Someone's going to yell at me. Fine, like, can I be open to being yelled at? Can I be open to someone telling me how I'm wrong? So I think this really points out to the benefits of bravery in all aspects of our life. So we talked about facing the entities of suffering in our life. We talked about bravery that Sam mentioned. And then the third thing that I wanted to talk about was his philosophy, right? So that's the title of the video is My Philosophy for a Happy Life. So here's this guy who couldn't have been dealt a worse hand. And now he's, giving talks to the world about how to be happy. It's just amazing. So he has and he's 17. It's just amazing. So he did kind of spell out this philosophy, and it's a list, and I'll just share it really quick. It's just going to be a snapshot of his list. So here's his philosophy for a happy life. Be okay with what you ultimately can't do because there's so much you can do. Or the way he put it in the video was, I don't spend time feeling sorry for myself. Number 2, surround yourself with people you want to be around. Number 3, keep moving forward. And number 4, never miss a party if you can help it. So I'll just quickly go through all 4 of those, and again, spell it out in a Zen or Buddhist context, and then also how race in my life, anti-racism kind of applies. So the first one is being okay, embracing what you can't do because there's so much you can do. This smacks obviously super literally of Bernie Glassman, our Dharma grandfather, who talked all the time about using the ingredients of our life, not trying to be anyone else, really just using what we've been given, right? And what we're given, the circumstances of our life, that's our karma, the cause and effect that gives us the circumstances of our life. And I'll turn to a Dogen, Master Dogen, in his Fukaza Zengi, I believe. He says, actually, you know what? I should probably pull it up here. Sorry. Actually, no, we're going to do this. Oh, boy. Sorry, where is this thing? All right, can't find it on my computer right now. But basically, the quote that Dogen says is that a bird never leaves the air, no matter how far it flies. A fish never leaves the water, no matter how far it swims. And then a couple sentences later, he says, when the need is large, it is used in a large way. When the need is small, it is used in a small way. So this is just kind of another example of Zen writings of using our ingredients. I can't tell you how much time I've wasted wishing I was a fish when I really was a bird, or wishing I was a bird when I really was a fish. That's so human. It's so natural to want someone else's circumstances, right? And that's why the second noble truth, that's why the Buddha said we suffer, because we want what we don't have and we don't want what we do have. But what would it look like? I mean, look at Sam, right? Sam Burns, he's a bird with one wing, and he seems to be just loving the sky and flying around however he can. And understanding that he can't swim, understanding that he can't fly as far as other people, but really just squeezing and milking every last ounce of what I can do. And I could just, from my own experience, if I spent the time with my own ingredients doing things instead of wishing I had other ingredients, I could be doing so much more and enjoying my life and appreciating my life and serving others so much more. And that's really what this is about, right? Using my ingredients to be of service. I know his video is about me being happy, how to live a happy life, but really from a Buddhist perspective, at least, it's how to live a life of service and find joy and connection and cultivate harmony in that. So how do I use my ingredients to be of service? Sometimes when the need is large, I use it in a large way. But when the need is small, I use it in a small way. Some of us, because of our ingredients, we can't make giant legislation that totally upends racism as we know it. But we can help our neighbor, or we can listen to a friend if they need someone to listen to them, a shoulder to lean on. So just in every moment, being okay with what I can't do, right? How many of us have, been so overwhelmed with the suffering of the world and, oh, I can't do anything to end famine and across the world, and then we just kind of become complacent. But no, just whatever you can do, really relish that and be the bird or the fish fully that you can be without worrying about what you can't do. So then his second point of living a happy life is surrounding yourself. What was it? Surround yourself with people you want to be around. Now, at first glance, that kind of might look like tribalism, right? Like be picky and choosy. I don't want you, but I do want you. So I'm only going to be with these people. And I don't necessarily think that's how I see this. Maybe that's what he's saying. I don't know. Um, but to this, for a Buddhist context, we turn to a very famous story where Ananda, who is a good friend and student of the Buddha himself, this goes way, way back. Ananda says to the Buddha, in my view, spiritual friendship is half of the spiritual life. And Buddha says, Ananda, don't say that. Don't say that. Spiritual friendship is the entire spiritual life. Having this connection, finding spiritual ground, finding harmony with people is what we're doing here. Um, and so that can be with our Sangha, our immediate Sangha, you people, people with whom we have things in common, really enjoying that connection. But then the Buddha goes on to say that he says Buddha or Buddha nature or true self is the ultimate spiritual friend of all beings. So how does that work, right? How can it be that I surround myself with the people I want to be around? How can I keep expanding that? And so this is kind of a koan, right? Like, who do I include? Who do I want in my life? When I think about the folks that I want to surround myself with, how small is that? How big is that? Why is that? Who am I excluding? These are all really good questions to ask, right? And so, on the one hand, you want to be inclusive, like the Buddha said, be everybody's spiritual friend at once. And on the other hand, we have to draw boundaries. And we do have to kind of tribalize. I'm reminded yesterday during Jonathan's workshop, he's talking about forgiveness. And he pointed out, super important point, that part of forgiveness is not letting people into our life, right? I can fully forgive somebody, truly forgive and heal, and at the same time, not allow them in my life. So, this koan of being the spiritual friend of all beings, that is the entirety of a spiritual life. That's a constant practice of opening and including, and also drawing boundaries and knowing what toxic and unhealthy relationships are. The third point of his philosophy for happiness is moving forward. And I'll just quickly reference a very famous Zen koan that we talk about all the time here, which is once you have climbed the 100-foot pole, how do you step off the pole? Something like that. I didn't mark it, but it's something like that. So traditionally, we can see the 100-foot pole as, practice of enlightenment, right? So we practice and we sit and we sit and we read and we study and all these practices to get to the top of this 100-foot pole of enlightenment. Okay, great. So now you've had this experience of oneness. Now what? How do you let go of that? How do you step off into your life and manifest? How do you keep moving forward? But we can also see the pole as struggle, right? Maybe you go through a really hard time and you climb up this really hard adversity, and then it's over. You somehow make it through. Now what? How do you move forward? How do you let go of the past, right? The more we cling to the branch with our teeth, the more we cling to the pole, we're just living in the past and we're going to get stuck. So I really find that point of always move forward, always be here now, always be letting go and just be present. That's what Zazen is, I think. Um, in one sense, we say it's just being present, it's just being here. But in a way, I kind of see that as always moving forward, always being here with the birds, always being here with you folks on Zen, on Zoom, sorry, on Zoom. So how do we keep moving forward? And the same goes with race. I think for all of us, white, black, legislators, activists, whatever it is, we have to keep moving forward. We can't, I went to a workshop on race and I learned this and this, so I'm good to go. No, there's always more to learn. Even for people of color, my experience is this, and therefore that's my view, and you have to know, like, they have a responsibility too to keep moving forward, to keep learning more about their experience, to keep learning more about how white supremacy imbues our society. There's always more, and we have to keep moving forward. I can't tell you how many times I've heard Obama was president, there's no more racism, right? That's the opposite of moving forward. That's like, we did that already, we're good to go. And it's just not true. And then his last point of philosophy for a happy life is never miss a party if you can help it. That's probably the most moving for me as a true extrovert and people addict. I can say my name is Bobby, and I am addicted to people. And so that is a huge part of my practice is, we talk about community or getting together relationship as a rock polisher. You put a bunch of rocks in a rock polisher and you wind it up, and all these rocks just kind of hit each other and polish each other, right? We polish off the edges. That's kind of how we talk about community practice. And it's just so important to go to the parties and bump up against each other and celebrate your life. And that one is illustrated by this koan, which I've talked about before. We talk about it a lot, but Iron Grindstone Ryu went to Isan. Isan said, "Old cow, you've come." She said, "Tomorrow there's a great communal feast on Mount Tai. Are you going?" Isan lay down. Iron Grindstone left. So just very quickly, I think what that's pointing to is just that the party's always here, right? So don't miss a party doesn't necessarily mean go out, you have to go to parties to be enlightened or have a happy life, obviously not. But celebrate your life. Find the party that is everywhere. Olin just came. Hi, Olin. He's here for the party. So that's what I take from his last point, is that every moment can be a party. Every moment can be a reason to celebrate right here, right now. And the more we ignore that, he says, never miss a party, never miss a single moment to celebrate your life. Even in the darkest, most troublesome times, is there a way to celebrate that sadness, to celebrate that difficulty, to see that hard moment as a party and invite people to it? And again, same with anti-racism work, can we celebrate everybody? Can we celebrate Blackness? Can we celebrate whiteness? Can we celebrate every culture in the world, right? Can we be open and inclusive and curious and want to party with absolutely everybody? Who am I excluding? I try to ask myself that all the time. What ethnicities, what races, what genders, what groups am I not including? Who am I not partying with? And I just really try more and more to open up my party to everybody and celebrate everything. So that's kind of how I was super inspired by Sam Burns. I hope it resonated with you in some way. And I just hope that this also kind of illustrates that all these things we're studying and practicing in Buddhism, all these things we talk about, they're certainly not exclusive to Buddhism, and they're not exclusive to spirituality or meditation. Here's this guy who's 17 years old who probably never read a Buddhist text in his life, and he's just spouting wisdom. This wisdom is everywhere, all around us. And Zen, Buddhism, whatever it may be, are just different tools to all help us kind of cultivate the party. So thank you very much, and I'll open it up to any questions or comments.